Master League Season 0, our Auto Battle PvP event, is just around the corner, and here is another video to hopefully help you guys prepare. What's up, everybody? Fortexfiend here. Welcome back to another video on SD Gundam G Generation Eternal, and in this video, I'm gonna be quickly going over the best recommended SSR units to be using for Master League Season 0 Auto Battle PvP. Now, there are more TLDRs before I get into the actual content of this video. And I know I've been spitting TLDRs at all of you guys, but I'm just trying to, cross my T's and dot my I's and just make sure that if you guys miss out on any information, because I know not everybody watches the entirety of the video, that I'm covering myself at the beginning of the video. First off, and I said this before, if you are a free-to-play player or a light spender and you have UR units that you can use for this particular event, you're going to want to use the UR units, especially if they have the protagonist and rival tag, because as we know, those tags are going to get a stat bonus for this particular PvP event. So if you have the UR units, you're going to want to use those over these units that I'm going to be talking about. Second, because I am talking about specifically gacha SSRs, not everybody is going to have these, whether you're a free-to-play player or whether you are, a spender. If you're like a big spender, you may not even have these because, you got to pull, right? So if you don't have them, don't go chasing after them. I did make a video previously on development or free SSRs that are very, very good to consider to use for this particular event. So I just want to get that out of the way, because I know people are going to be like in the comments, well, I don't have this, so what am I supposed to do? Or blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you right now, this is how it is, okay? So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into the context of this video. So I'm going to do this a little differently compared to my last video where I went over the free SSRs. I still categorize by either protagonist or rival because those are the ones that are going to get stat bonuses. But what I did was I chose just one from each because I didn't want to make this video extremely long compared to the other ones. I did my homework ahead of time. I took a look at these units, and based on the data and the information that I've gathered from taking a look at these units, I chose one from each category. So one from protagonist supporters, one from rival supporters, one from durability, and so forth and so forth. And when we get to durability, there's a few things that I'm going to be covering because there was a few mistakes that I made when I was talking about durability units, and I want to give a big shout out to a member in my Discord named Antalon who actually confirmed all this information for me. I'm always learning something new, guys. I ain't perfect. I'm not the best player at this game by no means. I'm just here because I love the game and I love creating videos and giving information to you guys. So thank you, Antalon, for correcting me on my previous video, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna be telling you guys some very correct, accurate information. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with our gacha SSRs supporter units that are of the protagonist tag. Now, we have 5 units here: Zuda Unit 1, Zeta Gundam 3, Turn A Gundam, Rising Freedom Gundam, Gundam Age-1 Normal. All solid units. However, the one unit that stood out to me is going to be Rising Freedom Gundam. I've talked about this particular mobile suit before. It is fantastic. As you can see, it has pretty decent mobility because mobility is going to be one of the factors that determines your stats. And let's not forget, when it comes to mobility for your mobile suits, it also kind of factors in their natural evasion. So the higher their mobility, the better chances they have of, naturally, hopefully evading an incoming attack, which is pretty cool. Now, Rising Freedom also has its flight mode, which gives it a little bit more mobility. However, I don't know if the way the AI behaves for this, because it is auto battle, if it's actually going to utilize that. So I'm probably not going to talk about that at all. But it has all of these terrain capabilities, which we know it's going to be space terrain for this particular event. It does have some fantastic tag, Seed, Protagonist, Gundam, Unstoppable, so you could kind of strategize just based on that alone with which warships you're going to be using. It doesn't have the coveted one-shot killer, which I think right now is currently the best tag in the game because of the current warship that we got, the limited warship, which is Eternal and Lacus. But it is still the best of the 5 that I mentioned. Now, if you are looking for one that does have one-shot killer, this thing has it, the Zuda Unit 1. However, I don't think it's as good as the Rising Freedom. First off, its defense down 20% is only at a 1 range for a supporter. So most of the time, while it's doing its supporting damage, it's probably going to be using this 4 range physical damage, taken 30%, which is fantastic. but I still really like that, you know, having an access to defense down 2 in some way, shape, or form. So if you want a one-shot killer SSR gacha support for Protagonist, this is going to be probably your option, but my pick is going to be Rising Freedom. Rising Freedom has a 3 range, taken damage from beam weapons up by 20%, and also has a 4 range, defense down 30%. Not only that, but it has increased energy, it does have shield defend, and it also has another form of damage mitigation, which reduces the incoming physical weapons damage it takes by 20%. However, keep in mind, and this is one of the mistakes that I made in my previous video, for UR units, especially with their EX weapons, most of them have, actually all of them have weapon damage null. So this will do nothing to the weapon damage null because they're just going to nullify it. So just keep that in mind if you're going to be running this unit. But it's still good for this unit to have this, because in case you get hit with something that's not an EX ability, then if it's physical, you know, it's going to reduce the damage by 20%. And it also has an energy regen, which is fantastic. And like we talked about earlier, it can transform. However, I'm not sure if the AI is going to use transform. That's the thing. I'm not sure if it really is going to do that, but it is right. It is part of its kit, so I do have to mention it. But all in all, I think Rising Freedom from the Gacha SSRs from the Protagonist line is going to be the best choice for your supporters. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to Rival, and it's pretty hilarious that there's only one Gacha SSR supporter for Rival, so of course I have to recommend it. So we have Ifrit, Rival tag, UC series, so there's a lot of UC series, and it also has Lightning Fast, which there is a ship that coincides with Lightning Fast, so if you have that, this is an option for you. And oh boy, I cannot recommend this actually. I'm gonna take that back. You want to know why? Look at its terrain. Okay, I totally missed this, and I'm gonna definitely keep this in the video because, again, I'm human, I make mistakes, but look at this. It can't look at the space terrain. Ooh, that's bad. It can't access it. Okay, so Rival supporters, SSR gacha, looks like we have no options, guys. You're gonna have to go with a free one. So if you want to check out that video, it is, you know, within my video list on the channel, but looks like Gacha SSR for supporters with the Rival tag, you're kind of out of luck at the moment. There's none that I can recommend because this one can't move in space terrain. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and move on, and we're gonna take a look at durability for Protagonist. So here are our Gacha SSR durability Protagonist. We have 5 available: Big Rang, Johnny Ridden's Gelgog custom, high mobility type, D Gundam First, Gundam Astray Red Frame Flight Unit, and Gundam H-1 Sordia. So amongst these 5, it was hard for me to pick between 2. It was hard for me to pick between Johnny Ridden's and Gundam Astray. However, I had to give it to Gundam Astray Red Frame Flight Unit. I cannot speak today. It has Protagonist, and it has one-shot killer. And the reason why I give the advantage to this one over Johnny's is because if you have Eternal and Lacus, you're going to get that boost. You know, you're already going to get the boost from having Protagonist tag, and then you're going to get another one from having the ship. So I'm going to give the full advantage to Gundam Astray Red Frame. It does have some decent mobility. Johnny Ridden's actually naturally has better mobility. However, I think with all the bonuses, this thing should end up being faster than it if you run it with Eternal and Lacus. And I know there's another one-shot killer ship that also runs with this too. It's not as good as Eternal and Lacus, but it is still a good option. And then if we take a look at what it has available, so unfortunately, it does have a mobility down 25%, but only at a 1 range. However, it does have an attack down 25% at 3 range, which is fantastic. It has increased defense, increased max HP, so it has a little bit more HP because of that. It has no other damage nullification. However, like I said earlier, if you're going to be facing against enemy teams, chances are you're going to probably see like at least one UR attacker, and those UR attackers, unless it's an ult unit, will have an EX ability that just has weapon damage null. So it doesn't really matter at that point. And then something that I want to point out, which again was pointed out to me, is that when it comes to durability units, you want to take a look at their movement. So this unit can move up to 5 tiles because that also depends on its range for support defense. So the higher movement is, the more support defense range this durability unit has. So this is something to keep in mind because there are some durability units that are from this particular tag that have like mobility or movement 4, excuse me. So that means that they can only defend you up to 4 spaces, whereas Astray Red can actually defend you up to 5 spaces. And then in terms of evasion, because we know that mobility influences evasion. Natural evasion, so when it comes to like units that can use sway, for example, right? Let's say you have like a durability pilot that you put on your durability unit and you use sway, and you're expecting that sway to trigger when let's say your attacker gets targeted, right? Well, guess what? It will not, because the enemy unit was initially targeting something else. So it still considers that the target. So the sway is not going to work, meaning that the support defense is still going to trigger and it's still going to take damage. And that's an error that I made, in a previous video, which was corrected again. So I want to just let you guys know about that when it comes to durability units. And also, when it comes to their mobility compared to attacker units will have more mobility naturally for the most part. So I know that I said that you want to try to make your supporters go first and then your defenders. It is going to be tricky to do that unless you somehow slow down the mobility of your attackers. But chances are, unless you could somehow manipulate it to a way where your durability units move first, your attackers are probably going to be going first anyways. So that's just something that I wanted to put out there, because it was something that I mentioned that in my previous video about durability units. You want them to move first, but it might be a little bit tricky to set that up. But all in all, for Protagonist SSR gacha units for durability units, this is going to be my #1 pick to recommend. And then afterwards, I actually think Johnny Riddens is like a runner-up, because it does have naturally high mobility, has really, really good HP. And if you take a look at the debuffs, it actually has mobility down 30% at a 3 range and accuracy down 10% at a 4 range, which is pretty solid. It doesn't have attack down, but those are actually some pretty solid, underrated debuffs. And also has increased mobility, so its natural evasion is going to be a little bit better actually than Astray Red. But Astray Red has that one-shot killer tag, and as we know, there's 2 ships right now. One that's like really, really strong, where if you have that, you get even more of a stat bonus. So that's why I give the advantage to this durability unit. We're going to move on to rival durability units. There are 3. There is Gundam Unit 2 Early Type, Zaku 2 FZ, and 1.5 Gundam. Out of these 3, hands down, no questions asked, this is going to be the one that you're going to want to use if you're considering gacha SSRs of the rival durability units. It has one-shot killer. I mean, just straight up, this is already an advantage right here. The other 2 don't have that. It also has really, really good HP for an SSR unit at 115k. It has 5 movements, so it can defend you up to 5 tiles. And if we take a look at its kit, it has Alvaron Cannon, which is an AoE absolute hit, and it has attack down 20%. So it has an AoE attack down debuff, which is fantastic. And it also has a 30% attack down debuff at a 4 range, which is awesome. It also has increased max HP, energy regen, and shield defend, and GN field level 3. So when it comes to gacha SSRs of rival durability units, this is going to be the one that you want. Hands down, this one, in my opinion, trumps these other 2 right here. If you want to use these other 2, if you have them, cool. But if you happen to have 1.5 Gundam, this is the one that I'm going to be recommending for rival durability units for this particular event. Okay, we're going to move on to protagonist attackers. And oh my lord, there was a lot. And I had to really, really look at every single unit to see which one that I want to recommend. And hands down, I have to give it to S Gundam. S Gundam one-shot killer was already a selling point for me. It has really good attack if you happen to have this thing fully limit broken. It has 5 move. It actually has some good mobility too. It can transform, but again, I don't know if the AI is actually going to utilize that. But if you take a look at the skills that it has, first off, it has Alice, which is a 2-range skill. However, it does have increased critical damage by 20%. And it also has Incom, which is a 5-range with a 30% increased critical damage. Not only that, it has increased attack, increased accuracy, and if its HP is full, it's going to be increasing its own attack by 20%. So all in all, I had to give it to S Gundam. This thing for a gacha SSR unit is really, really strong. I talked about it on a previous video, and it is a very, very solid choice if you happen to own this unit and you're lacking attackers for this upcoming PvP event. So for SSR gacha protagonist, hands down, I'm going to have to give it to S Gundam. And finally, we're going to go on to rival. There's only 2, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to talk about both of them because there's only 2. So first we have Char's Gelgog, which has good attack, really good mobility for an SSR unit. It has rival, it has the unstoppable tag, and it also has UC series. Now, in terms of its actual abilities, it has kick, which is 2 range. The higher your HP, the more damage it deals. And then it has it's interesting, a close range beam rifle. So it's up to 3 range, but the effect is the closer you are to the enemy, the greater the power. I think that's kind of funny that they designed it this way, because wouldn't you want to shoot this at long range? It's a beam rifle, right? But that's the effect of this, and it has increased attack and increased mobility and shield defend. And then we also have Ifrit Noct, who has slightly lower attack, lower mobility. However, it has the one-shot killer tag, which for me is a huge selling point. But the biggest problem with this unit is, look, we can't use it in space. So that was kind of like, that was a little bit disappointing, because I was almost going to recommend this, but I just had to mention it because there's only 2 and it can't move in space. So I can't recommend this one at all. And it's such a shame. So I'm going to have to recommend Shur's Gelgog. It's okay. I actually think I talked about better free SSRs like Epion, for example, that you could use over this. But I mean, if you're looking for a gacha SSR that is of a rival attacker, this is going to be your only option, because you can't use the other one because it can't move in space. So that's that, guys. That is going to go ahead and conclude my video for the recommended gacha SSRs for Master League Season 0. That's coming up very, very soon. Again, I only covered Protagonist and Rival because those are the only tags that can get the stat bonuses. And a reminder, if you don't have any of these units because they come from the gacha, there are other options that you can use. I'm only presenting this information because you guys asked for this. You guys were wondering, oh, if I don't have any UR attackers, or if I'm lacking more UR supporters or whatnot, well, what can I use that's, from the gacha that's an SSR? These are the ones that I personally recommend. Again, I made this a little bit shorter because I didn't want this to be way too long, so I only picked 1 or maybe 2 with a runner-up in terms of the gacha SSRs. But let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know if maybe I missed out on one that I could have talked about to you guys. Let me know the information, because I'd love to hear it. But all in all, this is going to go ahead and conclude this video. We have about 24 hours or a little bit more than that until the event drops, and I cannot wait to check it out. I know it's PvP, a lot of controversy with PvP, but it is an auto battle PvP. There's no ranking or anything like that. So guys, let's just have fun and enjoy, because it's more chances for us to earn resources, to build up units, more diamonds, and all that good stuff. So very, very excited for it. Thank you again for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, and stay blessed, everybody.